This is the Michael Brighton Show. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. And today I am joined with Shawn Brady, who is the visionary co-founder of MIT 45. So he's in the Kratom industry and health industry. So Shawn, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
I thought I'd start with a bit of background into yourself. So I wonder how you got started in business. What was it like for you? And I know that the company MIT 45 does really well today, but I wonder what your start was like.
I've always been that entrepreneurial kind of person. The main reason why is I have really bad ADHD or whatever it's called. I have dyslexia. I'm left-handed, and I just couldn't fit in the corporate world. I couldn't really do school very well. And so in order to feed a family, I have 5 children. They're all raised and married and take care of a family. I kind of had to just do things the way I could do them. So often I see things that other people don't see because you have to overcome dyslexia and ADHD and even being left-handed. To navigate the world, you just start seeing things that other people just don't notice. And so I've been in multiple different businesses. I'm 61 through my whole life. This business I started about 12, 13 years ago because I saw something that most people didn't see and then try to make a business out of it.
So talk to us a little bit about what you found. What would you say was missing at the time, and how do you run the business?
Well, I owned another business, and like most businessmen, I was in the back of the warehouse, helping manufacturing. We're late on an order, and my employees were angry with me because I wouldn't let them leave until we got it done. And so I was back there helping them, and my back was hurting. And one of my employees came over and said, "Here, try this product called Kratom." And I'm like, I don't know. I was really just apprehensive. Finally, he says, no, to help you. So I took a little bit of that and tried it. And 20 minutes later, my back didn't hurt so much. And I had a feeling of good wellness, a sense of well-being. And I was filed that and thought, wow, that's great. And then the business that I owned kind of dissipated, and I thought about this Kratom thing and decided that I was going to go in this Kratom business, even though really nobody was in the country. There may be 2 companies in the entire country that were trying to sell this product. That was about 12, 13, 14 years ago, about 14 years ago. And, slowly but surely people are finding out about it. And as so, our business has exponentially grown to the size where it is today. It's quite a large business in the Kratom world.
Would you say that there were any pivotal moments where the company really took off?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I added value to my own business is when I was about 42 years old, I lost everything I owned the second time. But this time I did a really good job of it. I was close to homeless. I didn't have a job, cars, money, nothing. Luckily, my mother took me in and I moved into her basement because I was broke. I was recently divorced. I was $75,000 back in child support. My confidence was a zero. And no matter what I did, I couldn't seem to make money. And a friend of mine was driving a semi-truck in North Dakota, making pretty good money. And he says, "Come up here." I needed to make money because if I didn't pay my child support, I would go to jail. So I got my CDL, passed it, luckily, because I'm a terrible truck driver, and went to Williston, North Dakota, and started driving a semi-truck hauling water in the Bakken Oil Reserve. And the reason I bring all of that up is that I was in that truck alone by myself all the time. And I had conversations with the universe, with God, I don't know what to call it, myself, I don't know. And I was really wondering why I'm in this position again. And through multiple conversations, I got told, it's hard to explain how, that I was punishing myself. And the best way to punish myself was to keep me broke. I handled life fairly well, the ups and downs in life, unless I was broke. And I was doing it to myself. And that hurt. It was hard to hear, but I listened. And then the universe or God, whatever that is, I don't know what to call it. So not only are you punishing yourself, Shawn, but you're punishing all those you say you love. Your children, your family, your parents, all those around you, because your choice, unconscious choice to punish yourself, you're punishing them too. Now, that really hurt. That really, really hurt me. It took me days to recover. I didn't run from it, even though it was painful. I looked into it. And then I started attaching that to my childhood where I was pretty abused. And I started noticing that I was mirroring what I learned as a child, being abused. I need to be punished for whatever reason. And I started at 40 copying that, but nobody was abusing me. I started just punishing myself, recognizing that that was my pattern, maybe my comfort zone. When I brought that to my awareness, I decided I was going to never again, under any circumstance, have that relationship with money ever again. I was well aware that money is kind of like water. What I mean by that is if you add vodka to water, it becomes vodka. If you add beer to water, it becomes beer. If you add sewage to water, it becomes sewage. And money is a neutral energy. It's completely neutral. But whatever energy one person gives it, consciously or unconsciously, it becomes. What a group or a society gives it, it becomes. And I was adding the energy unconsciously that it was a way to punish myself. And so instead, I made a commitment to myself whenever I was in the relationship with money, whether I was earning it or thinking about it or spending it, whenever I was around money, I was going to shift that relationship to that money was love and money was freedom. And I not just thought that, I put it sincerely into my heart where my feeling space was and truly did my best to feel that money was freedom and money was love. It was a practice that I committed to and practiced and practiced and practiced. As I practiced that, my relationship with money changed. I was open to different opportunities. And then the business I have now, I opened up to it. And as I struggled through growing this business, I continued to hold what is called an intention, a true intention. It's not a goal or an expectation, it's something different. I held on to that as I ran the business, as I negotiated deals. I continued to keep my focus, my heart focus. The money's freedom and money's love. And as I did that, the business expanded and expanded and expanded to today. I would believe a realistic evaluation of my business is probably about $300 to $400 million. When 14 years ago, I was living in my mom's basement 15 years ago. This is an aspect of a relationship with money few people don't talk about. There's thousands of books on how to grow a business, how to be an entrepreneur, how to invest, the structures, the mechanics of money, but there's very few people discussing like at the other side of the quarter that's just as important, and that is our relationship with it. And that's what I focused on more than anything else, is keeping a very healthy relationship with money.
It sounds like you've got a unique relationship with money, with business, with how to run a business, how to grow a business. How important would you say being aligned would be? Because it sounds like you had some stories around money, some associations with money that then had to change. But I get the funny feeling that you had to be okay with it day to day as well. You had to have some kind
Yeah.
of positive feeling on a daily basis as well.
Yeah, I guess it's positive, but I'm going to say something pretty controversial, and I don't mean to be controversial. It's just something that I've seen myself. A lot of people talk about having a positive mindset, and I've tried my whole life to have that, and it never worked for me any more than having a negative mindset would work for me. What I found, if I think positive, I tend to ignore half of what life can be by just the judgment of calling it positive or negative. When I was driving around that truck and I recognized unconsciously I was punishing myself through money, that was not a positive experience. It was very painful. And then I shifted that to having an aligned, as you say, vision or an awakened vision or an aware vision of what money is. As I practice it, I still went into fear all the time. I still went into self-punishment. I slipped consciously all the time, and I would have to bring it to my awareness. And in doing so, it's hard to explain, but by shifting my relationship with money, I just made different decisions and different opportunities. I just saw things differently from that space. Um, growing the business was still incredibly hard, and there was all kinds of adversity. I just made decisions or choices from a different place than if I was in reaction and reacting from my brain, so to speak. I don't know how clear that is, but that's the big difference to me that made the difference in the business that I built.
Do you have an example, Sean, of, let's say, a decision that you would have made differently from one mental state to the next? So, if you
Yeah,
have one, it'd be like a situation that you were
absolutely.
in where if you were thinking or feeling differently, you would have chose differently.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way I can explain to our brain, not our brain, I mean our mind, is our minds tend to be binary, this or that. And we tend to go to one side or the other. You see it all over the place in like American politics, all the way to this side or all the way to that side. And when we do that, we tend to set ourselves up to be either a victim in circumstances or an abuser in circumstances. Now, nobody's going to call themselves an abuser. What a definition of an abuser would be is I'm the victim, so I'm rationalizing any choices I make, no matter who they harm. So somebody might see themselves as a victim and hijack some planes and fly them into buildings because they're the victim. And the brain in the extremes will do that all the time. This or that, this or that, this or that. And I noticed every time in my life, every time I put myself in that I'm the victim to something, I just got more reasons to be the victim. And every time I put myself to be an abuser into something, I just got more enemies in life and I got more reasons to be an abuser. And I noticed it just was not working for me. And so then I tried or attempted to the best I could to not react, even though my brain wants to react all the time in business. I raised five children, four of them are boys, and I grew up in a certain environment that I didn't want to repeat. And so in doing so, I noticed that I didn't have the right to the I wasn't didn't have the luxury to react raising boys. Although I wanted to all the time. They would do something and I would get angry and upset and want to react in that moment. I would take an adult time out. I'm going for a walk. I'll be back in a few minutes. And I did my best to parent from the moment, not my brain going crazy. I transferred that also into business. There was thousands, tens of thousands of times. I could give you many specific times where I wanted to react, where I wanted to make a rash decision, reactionary decision. But every time I make a reactionary decision, it didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. So instead, I would take an adult time out. I'd calm down. I would do whatever. I would get myself back to alignment or center and then make a decision based on what I was creating. Okay, what is the highest value? What is the highest purpose of the business? What's the point? What's the purpose behind it? And I would always fall back to feeling-based words like, well, we're creating abundance, we're creating peace, we're creating harmony. It's not just about me, it's about me and all of our employees. It's about me and all of our clients and vendors. The ripple effect of the business matters, and the choices I make matter. And what kind of thing do I want to bring forth in this business? So I would go from wanting to react, wanting to fire everybody that gave me bad news, to calming and then make decisions, not announcing that, but holding that I'm creating abundance. And for some reason, it changed the filters, the way I discuss. People can, there's, as well as I do, that people don't really listen to what we say. They listen to what you feel. 95% of communication is not verbal. And for whatever reason, that translated to all of my employees and our clients, and that aspect of making decisions, for whatever reason, um, I believe fully that had a tremendous amount to do with the success of this business. I could go into a little bit more depth. Our brains are logical and rational, and they're good tools, but we're not our thoughts. But it is always looking for clarity. It is always looking for an explanation. It is always looking for proof. But there's another part of us that is absolutely certain about things, but it can't prove or explain what it knows without question. People call it their gut, their intuition. It's easy to prove. The listeners have love in their life. You have love in your life. I'll just talk about myself. I have 5 children. I love them with all my heart and soul. There is no doubt, no tiny doubt inside of me that I love them. But if I really contemplate that, there's no way I can prove it. I can't prove it. I just know it. Nor can I really explain that word love. Uh, it falls very short to try to give it any explanation. Now, people who have a common experience, have children of their own, understand through their experience what I'm talking about because they feel that same way towards their own children or grandchildren or loved one. But you can't prove love and you can't explain it, but people know without doubt. And so by paying attention to that thing you can't explain and paying attention to that thing that you can't prove, but you just know, when you pay attention to that and you add specific intentions to it, and then you take action, those things expand. But most of the time, people are running on their unconscious or they're not even aware. And so they get random results in life and random results in relationships all the time and wondering what's going on and why.
I'd be curious about what your take is on two things. One being awareness, and another one when you mention being centered and being grounded. So I wonder what your take is on those two things.
Again, it's just something that we know, but we can't explain. It's hard. Um, I have, and most people have an insane asylum for a head. I have one. It's thinking all kinds of things all the time. I can't control my thoughts. Doubt comes in all the time, fear comes in all the time, worry, and all kinds of things run in and out of my brain. And to me, awareness is I'm aware that occurs. It's not wrong or right. It's just part of my personality. I don't try to shut it up or try to control it because I can't. But I also know that I could make a choice, not so much on my emotions, but how I feel. I could make a conscious choice. And so living in intentions, living in alignment, living in an awareness is not judging things to be positive or negative that are occurring. They're just occurring. Letting my mind be worried or afraid or whatever it's going to do, but make my choices from a different place, consciousness, what I would call co-creating. Every single time I added energy to being a victim, I got more reasons to do so. Every single time I added energy to being an abuser, I got more reasons to do so. It just kept increasing. And if I just paused and looked at it and pondered it, I recognized that neither one ever works. And so there is another place to make choices in life that is never, ever, ever a victim. It is never, ever abuser. It doesn't take crap from people, nor does it give crap because it doesn't work. There's a different place to make choices from. And so I practice making life choices from there. It's really quite simple, but it's not easy to do. It takes practice. And in practicing it, life changes. All kinds of relationships change, but not really that much changes as I or other people practice that.
Are you able to take us through what the practice would look like? So when you first started it through to today, how does this practice look?
It's first and foremost, step one would be some part of my life is not working and I'm accountable and responsible for my life. I'm the captain of my soul. And if I'm going to take accountability and responsibility for my life, I'm going to be honest with myself. So there's an aspect of my life, i.e., making money, it's just not working. Well, there's probably something based on trauma way back early in our childhood that we don't want to look at because if we look at it, it causes a tremendous amount of pain, so we avoid it. So the first step of the practice is to go into the demon, the darkness, the thing that we want to avoid, and bring it into awareness because all kinds of things are running us unconsciously all the time. And if it's running us unconsciously, we often get results we don't want. So the hardest part is just taking account and responsibility for where you're at in life, the circumstances that you're in, and be honest with yourself. What is it that I keep repeating and why? What is going on? And generally, that's attached to a lot of pain. And so people don't want to do that. Why would I want to be in pain? It was hard enough when I was going through it way back then. Why would I want to do that now? But it's vital that we take that journey and go into it as deeply as we can and be honest about it. Once you see, you'll know, because there'll be a purge of emotion. There'll be a purge of sorrow. There'll be a purge of anger. There might even be a physical purging of some sort, but you will know what it is. And then when you bring that into awareness, now when you're making choices, you can make any choice you want. You can go back, in my case, to going back to punishing myself in relationship with money, or I can make a different choice. No, that doesn't work for me. The results aren't working for me. I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to do my best to truly feel that money is freedom, or money is peace, or money is value, or whatever. And that goes through all aspects of life. If I'm in a relationship with my parents or my children or my partner or my business partners and it's not working, I have no power in their choices. I have no power what other people choose. I only have power in my choices. Right? And so I'll take accountability and responsibility, not blame, but I'll take accountability and responsibility for what's occurring and pay attention to what I'm focusing on. Instead of letting my unconscious make the decisions or the choices, I'm making those choices. So the next step to the practice is just, all right, wow, there's a big epiphany. I'm punishing myself in regards to my relationship with money. I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to bring the feeling of peace or love or joy, what everybody wants. And every time I'm around it, I'm just going to practice the best I can to feel that money is freedom. It's a difficult practice because we fall back to our comfort zone. We fall back to our unconsciousness. It happens all the time. And just catch yourself doing that, going back into fear or doubt, and bring back what you want over and over again. It's continually doing that. And in doing that, it's kind of like going to the gym and you're really overweight. You've got to commit to doing it. And you start small. You don't walk into a gym and pick up a 100-pound dumbbell and start curling it. You might go down to the 5-pounders, but you commit every day to going to the gym and practice and practice and practice. And as you do so, you lose weight. As you do so, you bring muscles and you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And it happens over time. It doesn't happen automatically. It happens as you practice. Then, with that practice, you'll begin to notice a difference in your relationships. Things change and you can't explain why and you can't prove it, but you know it's happening.
What would you say the feeling was of knowing that you're making, I guess, the best choices? So if we think of the decision making that's led to the growth of your company, how did you know deep down that it was the right decision? Because I imagine there's an element of, well, how do you know that it's not
Yeah,
more of the same?
that's an excellent question and it's hard to discern. I don't have a crystal ball yet as a business owner. I've made thousands and thousands of decisions not knowing what's going to unfold. I have plenty of critics around me that 6 months after I've made a decision come in and say, well, that was a terrible decision. And because they have 2020 hindsight, well, no kidding. Where were you when I was making a difficult decision?
Yeah.
And so entrepreneurs and creators and performers are always making decisions with the unknown, not knowing how it's going to unfold. And it's hard to discern the noise because other people want to tell you what to do and how to do it. And it's hard to listen to know for sure. It takes practice. I'm of the firm belief that our greatest strengths in life are tied to our so-called greatest weakness. One of my greatest strengths is commitment. When I decide to do something, I do it. One of my so-called greatest weaknesses is being stubborn, really stubborn. They're very similar, but the results are different. When I'm really committed, I bless and ripple into many, many people's lives. My ripple effect bleeds out in other lives and blesses them. When I'm being really stubborn, I damage relationships. And I can have 10 employees in here and we're making a decision and my gut says do this. And I can have those 10 employees say, no, Shawn, no, that's a terrible decision. Or no, Shawn, that's a great decision. But how would I know? The only person who really knows is myself. And I have to be honest with myself because when I'm stubborn and I just want to be right and I'm coming from ego, well, that's going to be destructive. Or I'm being committed. Nobody else can tell. The only person who knows is me. And if I'm like sitting in a room and I'm making a decision and I want to be right and being stubborn, it takes me going, oh, damn it. I'm being stubborn right now. I'm not listening to my intuition. I'm not listening to my gut. I just want to be right because everybody likes being right. I have to tell on myself. No, that doesn't work. I'm not being committed. I'm being stubborn. Or at other times, no, I have no proof, but my intuition says we're doing this. And it's scary, and I don't have a crystal ball, and it might not work out, and I'm not sure how this is going to unfold, but I'm certain, and this is what we're going to do. That's the best way I can describe something that's incredibly difficult to describe.
It sounds to me, Shawn, like you must have quite a, I guess, a firm grasp on your intuition because it sounds like you need to know pretty clear at least when you're being stubborn versus when you're being
Yep.
committed, and the line must be somewhere. What is your relationship like with
Well,
your intuition?
that's a great question because the practice of listening to intuition, if you do, very little bad things happen. You're driving down the road and your intuition tells you to get off because you're going to be late for work. You're like, okay, you get off the road and get on a different road and you show up to work on time and nothing happens. The only time we learn is the contrast. Our intuition says, get off the freeway. We're like, no, I don't want to get off the freeway. And then as you're driving down the freeway, there's a big traffic accident up ahead, and now you're late to work. We learn from the so-called negative to trust our intuitions. Shoot, I should have listened. Dang it. I should have listened. Why didn't I listen? So it's a funny dichotomy in building your intuition because when normally, not always, but most of the time when you listen to it, nothing traumatic happens. It's only when I don't listen and through lots of experiences, oh crap, oh, maybe I ought to trust that. Maybe I ought to trust myself. But self-trust is really hard. And the reason why we don't trust ourselves is we're constantly compromising on things we committed to. I'm going to go to the gym every morning and I'm going to eat right. And then when times come up, we give ourselves excuses and we rationalize and justify other things, and then we don't do it. And there's death of 1,000 cuts or death of 1,000,000 cuts. People don't trust themselves because they're constantly compromising on what they promise they're going to do. So part of the practice of trusting your intuition is be really careful what you commit to. Don't do it half-assed. If you commit to something, then do it. If you don't want to do it, then say no. Um, and building self-trust is also building trust in your own intuition.
Are there any suggestions that you could give for people to get better at saying no? Because I imagine things like people pleasing is a big factor here, but how would you encourage or help people say no easier?
That's another really difficult one because most everybody wants to be a nice person and they don't want to hurt people's feelings. But when you're saying yes to something you really don't want to do, the other person knows it and they can tell. And so they know to a level you're being deceitful, and you know to a level you're being deceitful. So again, that's a practice, especially if you're a people pleaser. I understand it because the other person's feelings matter. But I believe the more I practice on being honest with myself and honest with others, I build those relationships. Um, Trust goes both ways. And so if I've got a client, a big client that I want to buy our products, I'll go in and see them and I'll sit down with them and we'll negotiate a deal. And just before we sign the contract, I'll stop and say, listen, things are going to go wrong. we're going to mess up, you're going to mess up. And I need to know right now that you're going to handle yourself with honor and respect. Because if you're not, I don't want to do business with you. And they always say yes. And then 3 months later, something goes wrong and they're yelling at me because something went wrong. I said, hey, wait a second. We made an agreement that we're going to do things with respect and honor because trust goes with both ways. If I'm trying to do business with somebody and they're buying from me, it's very important that they trust me. And it's important they make money from the products they buy. And it's important we fulfill our end of the bargain. But it goes both ways. And so I've got to reinforce that you get to be trustworthy too. When I build that level of trust and both of us are adding to that trust, then it expands. People don't trust people who tell them what they want to hear. They don't believe it and they might accept it, but they're not believing them. And so a people pleaser thinking they're doing the nice thing, they're really not. Even if the other person doesn't like it that much, they trust you more. And trust is the most important thing in relationships, a relationship with themselves. They'll trust you, even though they're not happy you told them no. Because in life, there really is no middle ground. It's either commit to doing something or commit not to doing that. And everything else in between is a self-deception, which of course is a practice, but you've got to practice. Yes, I mean it. I'm doing this. Or no, I don't want to do that. I'm not. And it takes work. But people trust you, even though they're not happy of hearing that, because it's something of honor.
Do you have like a situation that you've been in recently where you could run through your thought process? So maybe it could be a big decision when you were scaling your company, perhaps something else, I guess, where you had to go through this process. Try to paint a clearer picture as you can.
Again, something specific. We started business in about 2012. We were selling specific products and we were doing okay. And then I decided to create a new brand and it's called Mit 45. And the decision based on that, I didn't know if it was going to sell or sell well. I didn't know what we should or shouldn't do. We were doing okay, but we were struggling. By committing and going all in and doing the best we could and being able to shift those decisions, um, somehow or another it took off. Boy, I wish I could be more specific because I am presented constantly in every day decisions where I don't know for sure if we're doing the right thing or not. I have a CEO who runs my business now, and he doesn't like me saying this, but we're constantly making up what we're doing. We've been in business 12 years. We're incredibly successful and we're growing. We want to get to where we're doing $1 billion in annual sales. But that is a constant creating. And when you're creating, you don't have magic answers that are certain. You're making decisions that you hope are the best. Uh, So maybe that is still too vague, but it never goes away. The doubt never goes away. The questioning never goes away. The am I doing the right thing never goes away. It's just a continual practice of making committed decisions, doing the best you can to trust them. And if it's not working, be honest and adjust it. And if it's not working at all, make a new decision, go in a different direction. It's the process of that, doing that again and again and again that matters more than the specificness of it. Because if I talked about a specific win that went really well, I'm not talking about the 20 other decisions that don't go that well, because an entrepreneur or a business person, most of the decisions they make are failures. They didn't work out that well. It's just committing to do it again and again and again, even though it's hard, and recommitting again and again and again until it begins to work. And when you find something works, then you go at it with a lot more vigor. Maybe I'm being unbelievably vague. I'm not attempting to be. I want to be specific for you. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I guess the best thing to find out now is what would you say was the hardest decision that you've made, whether it went well or not? And then I wonder if there's something that didn't go well initially, but ended up being the best thing. And it was all because of your ability to commit to something regardless of the outcome, but it ended up going badly, but turned out okay in the end?
I've certainly made decisions launching a specific product that I thought would do really well. The test of the market went well. Our branding looked good. We tested it out and we poured a bunch of money into it, and it turned into being a bomb, and we lost $8 million on something like that. Um, I've certainly made those decisions. I don't know if I had one that I made a decision that looked really poorly and in the end turned out really good. I believe the practice of the process is first paying attention to what I'm creating, holding my heart space to wherever that is, and then making decisions, doing the best I can to look at the ripple effect of that. That would be kind of like, what is the purpose of doing dishes? If you and I were having a long conversation in my office and I asked you, what's the purpose of doing dishes? Most people would say, to get them clean. And I'm like, right, that's the result, but that's not the purpose. And if we had lots of questions about it and I let you find your own answer, after a while, you would see that the purpose of doing dishes is something like giving love. Uh, I jumped to it pretty quick. We didn't go through the process, but there's purpose in everything. If somebody wanted $10 million liquid in the bank and they came to me and said, hey, I want $10 million liquid in the bank, I'd say, why? And they would say, what's wrong with $10 million liquid in the bank? And I would say, nothing. I just want to know why you want it. And they wouldn't know the answer because they don't look. If I had lots of conversations with them, asked them lots of questions, after a while, they would recognize they don't want $10 million liquid in the bank for the 10 million. There's nothing wrong or right about that. It just, they want for how it feels. If they had $10 million liquid in the bank, they would feel freedom. They would feel a value or whatever it is they want to feel. The things we want materialistically in life, we don't want them for the thing. We want them for how they feel. And that's why an intention is so powerful. You start with that now. So first I would hold the intention, but then I get to make decisions without a crystal ball, not knowing what to do. And so it is make a decision, be really honest with myself. Don't try to force things. Is it working or not? Not if it's right or wrong, is it working or not? And pay close attention if it's working. If it's working, then move forward. If it's not, then change a little bit. Don't start over again, throw the baby out with the bathwater. You shift it and you shift it and you shift it with little things until it begins to flow, until it begins to work. And then with employees, you do that for about 6 to 12 weeks. All of a sudden, that system is something we've always done. It seems like it's been around forever, but it is an actual creation. Somebody who's sculpting and making a sculpture, they're bringing to life whatever it is they're creating or they're painting. It's a process. And creating in business is the same thing. It is a creation. Human beings love to create. We feel the most full when we are creating, and we can create in business, but it's the same process. You don't know for sure. You're not certain. You make a decision because decisions need to be made. And again, you remake the decision and you shift it again and again and again until it is in harmony or it flows. And then you go on to the next one.
It seems like you've had to overcome a lot of challenges and you've had to make some tough decisions. I wonder what would be your, let's just say, top three biggest lessons? So these could be with other entrepreneurs in mind. So they want to start a business, they want to grow a business, and they want to follow in your footsteps. Or they could just be more general life lessons.
I would think the first and foremost, the most important one, and for a long time I didn't trust myself, but I tried to pretend like I did. I was being deceitful to myself. And then I had to learn what that really meant. And so it's really easy to say the number one lesson I learned was to trust myself, but that wasn't just a simple decision. It was a process to learn to trust myself, to make a decision, commit to it, and follow through, or to say no. We discussed that a little bit. So the number one important thing is to trust yourself. And the hard part is there's all kinds of evidence not to, and there's all kinds of evidence to. And then you have an altered part of you that is just wants to be stubborn and start proving that you're right. So the second most important thing is not only to trust yourself, but to be very, very honest with yourself. Have the courage to tell yourself the utter truth, and nobody else will know, but you know. Start practicing telling yourself the complete truth, even if it hurts. Honesty brings forth pain. Honesty isn't painful. It brings up pain that is deep inside of us that we don't want to see. Don't avoid the pain. Face it. Go to it because it has a lesson to teach us. And then the third one would be to be open to multiple perspectives, other ways of seeing things than just my own. We can get very myopic and think that the world all fits the way we see it when it just doesn't. And the more I can see other perspectives, not that they're right, not that they're wrong, but see other perspectives and understand to the depth as to why someone would see those perspectives, I make much wiser decisions, much broader perspective decisions than a narrow one.
Are there any commonalities that you've seen that cause the businesses to grow? Are there any common themes that you can think of?
I believe so. I believe that running a business or building a business is no different than all relationships. You're in relationship with your business. You're in relationship with a partner. You're in relationship with the planet Earth, as I see it, as a planet of relativity, meaning it's relationship driven. And it's also experiential. It's not didactic lecture. There's nothing wrong with didactic lecture, but we learn through experience. And how we learn through experience is in our relationships. And so running a business and building a business is no different than being in a relationship with whatever you're in relationship with. It's learning to master relationships, however you do it, whether it's in business or at a job or at home. When you master what it really creates a high level relationship in any aspect of life, you can transfer those lessons into whatever else you want to build. So let's say there's a mother her children are grown and she's practiced being a mother and she was an incredible mother. And now she wants to enter the workforce or build a business. She can use all the skills she learned in being a good mother, all the failures, all the hard parts, and all the successes. Just do the same thing. Trust yourself in doing the same thing because you're a master at relationships with children, meaning you can do the exact same things and be a master at the relationship and being in business because it's all relative and it's all about relationships.
How many, I guess, conversations have you had with people that you've been, I guess, close to or having to build relationships with, whether they were business relationships or personal? What would you say were some of the keys to cultivating strong relationships?
I love to mentor young men. I just love to mentor them. And so I mentor a lot of young men and they're confused and lost and the world doesn't really very clear. And so we have conversations about how they are the creator of their lives. And the world wants to teach you to be a victim. There's a big difference. Let me clarify real quick. There's a big difference between being victimized, someone who is abused or raped or anything like that. Being victimized is you have no voice or choice in that circumstance, that you have no voice or choice whatsoever. Choosing to be a victim, whether consciously or unconsciously, you have a choice and you have a voice. Um, and so I work with them in recognizing the difference in their current life circumstances, that they do have a voice and they do have a choice. But in doing so, you have accountability. You get to account for your choices and you have responsibility. How did you respond to your choices? And practicing simple techniques, simple things that are hard, actually. Becoming aware that I have my choice. And based on my choices, I build the life I want. But in order to build the life I want, I get to take accountability and responsibility for it. And doing that over and over again. Wherever someone might be who is listening right now, wherever they're in life, if there's something that they want to build a business, the first place to start is to take accountability and responsibility for where you are right now. See where you are and see what it is you keep repeating that brings you there. Be honest about it and then make a commitment to do it differently in a way that will be effective for you to move forward. But that's a practice. It doesn't snap your finger and change. You practice it, but you consciously practice it again and again and again in all circumstances of your life, whether it's to do with your business or to do with a friend of yours.
How would you feel about sharing some, I guess, stories of people that have built strong relationships? Or maybe you have an example yourself of a person that you've been able to grow your business with the help of.
I would say that the business has grown. I will go back to mentoring by pouring into my employees. I believe with all my heart and soul that the stereotype of how businesses run, whether it's in media or just people how they think, is it's heartless, it's cold, it's about profit and nothing else, and all that matters is making the money. That's a empty way of doing life. Even if you arrive somewhere, it's meaningless. It doesn't matter that much. I firmly believe that business can be done differently than the stereotype. I believe that there is some way to create harmony where you pour into your people and you support them in growing as in individuals in their own life, not just at work. And by doing so, they support and grow the business with you. They become very loyal and passionate, and they want the business to succeed with you. Um, as a business owner, you're enrolling people constantly in life. And the most important part of enrolling people is you need to know what their vision is, and everybody's vision is different. So when you bring somebody into your company, you're asking questions. You want to find out what's most important to them. And not surfacely, I mean really important to their own heart. And you get to know their vision maybe better than they know it themselves. And then the next step is to discuss your own vision and get them to be clear on what your vision is. And then the third step would be if we work together, we will both get far more than we would get on our own and build a real firm trust with your employees that you truly care about their vision, they care about yours, and we'll work together. And in doing so, we create unbelievable, maybe miracles, things that people don't think could happen. I don't believe that that's super clear or discussed much when it comes to business, um, especially with the cliches. I believe with all my heart and soul that you can be wildly successful financially at the same time, be heart-centered. A lot of people would go back to the binary brain that want to run the business and they go, yeah, but if I pour into my business, then my employees will take advantage of me and they'll walk all over me and I'll be subjugated to their abuse or vice versa. You know, we have to be in charge and we have to be an authoritarian and we have to make everybody be robots. Neither one of those paths will work. It's a great path to failure. There is another way of doing it that is in harmony, and it's both sides. The mechanic sides, the structures, the boundaries, the SOPs, the highest practices, all those things matter. But there's another part that is almost never spoken about, and that's the heart part. And the heart part never, ever takes anybody's shit. It never gives anybody shit. It doesn't do either one of those. But the world doesn't quite know that. And so as a leader, you get to know that, and then you get to inspire them that they're both. And by doing that, 1 + 1 is not 2, it's an infinity. That can get really confusing for people who have maybe a small business right now, and you have 10 employees or 20 or 5, because often people want you to be the fair police. And I think fair is the worst word in the English language. Because usually if somebody walks in my office and says to me something's not fair, what they want me to do is make something unfair for 2 or 3 other people to make it fair for them. Or what they want me to do is make it unfair for the business and make it fair for them. Fairness is not possible. And it's usually the lowest vote and it doesn't work. So to describe running a business full of heart, often people misunderstand that because it's not to be a victim to an employee or let my employees be a victim to me. It is to have boundaries. It is to have structure. It is to have goals. It is to meet measures, but that is not just mechanically done. It's done for inspiring. It's done from vision. And in order to have a vision work, I need to know what my employees' vision, what do they want out of this? And they get to see what we're creating out of that. And they also get to see and believe and trust. And if they give their heart to this, and I give my heart to this, both of us receive far more than we ever expected.
For sure, and I think that that is a fantastic way to end. I like how being heart-centered and people-centered is definitely the way forward, and I'm glad we were able to discuss that because I think that some people forget that employees help you grow and they help you grow the company and
Yeah.
grows beyond just you, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, and lots of people discuss that and they want that, but there's a structure to it, but it's hard to explain. And I think I described there how it could go. You have to pay very, very close attention that, of course, not only your employees, but your clients and your vendors, you're creating something together. And in order to do that, there gets to be a level of harmony, there gets to be a level of trust. And you can't talk about trust. You get to be trustworthy. Your employees can't be talk about being trustworthy and then not do it. They get to be trustworthy as well. It goes both ways. And when you step into it, you know it, but it's very hard to describe, especially with the fixed belief that businesses are a certain way, and maybe they are that way. Maybe that's where they've always been, but I don't believe that that way will function anymore. I believe there's going to be an evolution in capitalism, in business, where you can be spiritual and you can be a capitalist. And both of those things combined together are a good thing for the planet, not another destructive thing.
Very, very well said, Sean. So I wonder if those that are listening, they want to enter your world, possibly they want to find out more about the companies and the way that you work. How can people follow you and connect with you?
Best way to follow my business is just go to mit45.com. That's where our products are if they want to find out about Kratom and find about our products. If they want to find out a little bit more about me, my first name is Robert, robertshawnbrady.com. They can go to my website and learn more about me. And when I am speaking, they can follow me and maybe attend.
Thanks so much for being a guest on the show. Those that are listening, feel free to subscribe, share the show, tell others, and also leave a review wherever you are listening into your podcasts. Sean, I've enjoyed it. It's been great, and I look forward to keeping in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your time.